Hi everyone, welcome to the WasteSorted Schools Grants and Projects webinar. My name is Hannah and I'm a Programs Officer at WasteSorted Schools. I'll be speaking to you about the WasteSorted Schools grants and showing you some possible projects that could be considered for funding. I have Kate with me today, who is also a Programs Officer with WasteSorted Schools, and she'll be keeping an eye on the Q&A section for any questions you may have during the presentation. We will answer these questions at the end. I would also like to mention that this webinar is being recorded and a link to the recording and a PDF of the slides will be sent to registered attendees. Before we begin, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land which we live and work, the Whadjuk Noongar people, and pay our respects to their elders, past and present. As I mentioned, this webinar is all about the WasteSorted Schools grants, and I will show you examples of what other schools have implemented that would fit within our funding guidelines. We will cover how to find out if your school is eligible to apply and what projects will be considered. I will go through the application process and what happens behind the scenes to assess and approve the applications. At the end, there will be some information about where to go if you have any questions or get stuck. If there is more information that we can provide you, it will be linked from the image at the bottom right-hand side of the slide. The link on this slide will take you to the WasteSorted Schools grants page. WasteSorted Schools is a state government program funded by the Waste Avoidance and Resource Recovery account. This is administered by the Waste Authority. All successful grant applications are funded by this account. WasteSorted Schools sits alongside other programs like WasteSorted and the Better Bins program that work together to support the objectives of the waste strategy. The WasteSorted Schools grants are focused on reducing waste going to landfill. We use the waste hierarchy to show the most preferred methods of diverting waste from landfill, with avoidance being the best and most preferred option. This could be done in schools by making beeswax wraps for students to use instead of using Glad wrap and Ziploc bags in their lunches. Then, after avoidance, we look at how we can recover materials and either reuse, repurpose or recycle them. The link on this slide takes you directly to our WasteSorted Schools guide, which outlines our program's focus areas of implementing infrastructure, such as bins or compost systems, integrating education about waste and resource management into classrooms, and involving the whole school and community to be part of the school's waste and recycling projects. WasteSorted Schools is allocated a specific amount of funding to be made available to schools each year. So depending on the amount allocated and the interest from schools, some years we have one round and others will have 2 rounds. This year, we are lucky enough to have 2 rounds. The first round closed in March and the second round is opening on the 3rd of June and closing on the 6th of August. All applications are completed via the online Smarty Grants portal, which is quite straightforward to navigate. The link on this slide will take you to the DWER Smarty Grants page. If you have any problems with this website, please email us. We have occasionally had some confusion in the past when schools have applied for the WasteSorted Community Education Grants Program. Please make sure you are applying for the correct grant, which is the WasteSorted Schools 2024 Round 2 Grants Program. When you're planning your project, it can be helpful to use our WasteSorted Schools checklist, which is linked on this slide. Our recommendation is to start small and keep it simple. It is best to work on one project at a time and choose projects that you can build on in the future. Also, please keep in mind that you don't need to apply for the full grant amount, which is $5,500. Just apply for what you need. Another useful tool when planning your project is to use your waste audit data. This will show you what waste streams are your biggest concern at your school. And in general, we find paper, cardboard and compostable organics are usually the largest waste streams going to landfill. And with some planning and funding from WasteSorted Schools, these waste streams can be diverted from landfill quite easily. If you haven't completed a waste audit yet, you can click on the link on this slide to find out how we can assist you with these. Another tool that we have on our website is a school waste system assessment, which can help you find out what type of skip bins you have, how often they are serviced, and if they are being serviced on the correct schedule. We also encourage you to engage with your students, staff and wider community to find out what projects might be of interest to them and to also see if they would like to support you in delivering them. Schools must have completed their WasteSorted Schools accreditation or re-accreditation for the current calendar year. So if your school completed their accreditation in November 2023, you would still need to complete it in 2024 to apply for the 2024 grant rounds. If you are not accredited and would like to, please click on the link on this slide, which will take you to the WasteSorted Schools online learning module. This is the first step in becoming accredited and it will guide you through the next steps in the process. Past WasteSorted Schools or WasteWise grants also must be acquitted. If you are unsure about your school's accreditation or past grants, please contact the WasteSorted Schools team. As I mentioned, the first step to becoming accredited is to complete the online learning module. Then from there, you will need to form a committee, complete a waste audit, create a plan and policy, and then upload your documents to our portal. Once accredited, you can set up and implement infrastructure and projects at your school and then keep it going by integrating education into the classroom and getting your whole school community involved. The WasteSorted Schools grants aim to assist schools setting up this infrastructure and building on it to keep it going. So, what can you apply for? WasteSorted Schools grant funding is available for projects that divert waste from landfill. You will hear me mention this often during the next section, as it is very important. That is the focus and main aim of your project. We're going to start at the top of the waste hierarchy with examples of projects that avoid waste being created. One way to do this is by implementing small changes to create a green canteen. Green canteens are those that make sustainable changes by choosing to avoid and recover waste. Many schools are starting to see that making small changes can create a large impact on the number of items going to landfill, such as single-use tomato sauce packets. Lake Gwella Primary School now provides students with a sauce bottle they can use on their food instead. They also buy drinks in bulk and decanter them into smaller reusable bottles for students to use and return to be washed. The link on this slide will take you to a case study video which described the process their canteen went through to become a green canteen and the other items they have swapped out. It might give you some inspiration. Hammond Park Primary School have also made changes in their canteen to reduce waste with reusable containers to package the students' lunch orders in instead of plastic wrap. To make sure the green canteen reusable items are washed appropriately, we have also provided funding to schools such as Kalbarri District High School to purchase a commercial dishwasher to use as part of their green canteen. We will not fund residential dishwashers, and we must see clearly in your application that the commercial dishwasher is a piece of infrastructure that will assist canteens to implement reusable containers for lunch orders, which in turn will reduce waste going to landfill. Canning Vale Primary School noticed how much cling wrap was making its way into their general waste bin each day and came up with a project idea to supply every child with their own beeswax wrap to use at home when making their lunch. They ran the activity in each class, so every child was involved in creating their own beeswax wrap. This is a great project if you want to start up waste-free lunch days. Rosalie Primary School has a communal cup library, which reduces takeaway coffee cups, and Palmyra Primary School has purchased reusable plates, cups and cutlery to use for class parties and other events held at the school to reduce single-use items. The link on this slide will take you to the plastic-free school challenge page, which has a lot of other ideas to reduce plastics at school. If you can't avoid creating the waste, it is a great idea to look at what your school can recycle. It is important that before you implement any new bins at your school, you do your research and talk to your manager of corporate services to discuss what service providers you might need to arrange to collect the items. This includes skip bin services, containers for change collections, and organisations that will collect e-waste and other hard to recycle items. Each school will require different bin combinations too. So for example, if you have containers for change and paper recycling, you may not need a commingled recycling service anymore. This slide shows 4 different waste stations. However, they all follow our recommendations. They have placed the bins in high use areas. The bins are set up next to each other as a waste station. Their bin signage has words and pictures to describe what goes into each bin. They are a suitable size and height for students to access. And the most important rule is that the bins must follow the Australian standard colours, which is a dark green or black base with red lids for general waste, blue lids for paper and cardboard recycling, yellow lids for commingled recycling, and lime green lids for organics. By following these suggestions, you can decrease contamination, avoid confusion, and reduce waste going to landfill. Containers for change is a great way of diverting waste from landfill with the additional benefit of fundraising for your school. Many schools use the money collected from Containers for Change to fund other sustainable projects. There is no Australian standard colour for Containers for Change bins, but please do not use red, blue, yellow or lime green as it will create confusion. Dianella Secondary College asked their design and technology students to come up with a solution for Containers for Change collections. And they made these cages that hang off the back of the 240-litre wheelie bins. Morley Senior High School has just recently started using bike baskets attached to the side of their bins to collect containers. St Norbert College made collection bag holders, and you can purchase pop-up bins from the Containers for Change shop, which also attach to the handles of a wheelie bin. The link on this slide will take you to the Containers for Change website, where you can set up an account for your school, register your school as a refund point, and download their education toolkit, which has a range of ideas and activities about how to engage students in Containers for Change. Before applying for Containers for Change infrastructure, please check what you can get for free through the Containers for Change fundraising toolkits. One kit is provided per school to help get them set up. The link on this slide will take you to the registration page for these toolkits. As you can see here, there is a toolkit for metro schools that provide flyers, posters, bin stickers and guides, a 240-litre bin and 200 mesh bags. The regional toolkit is similar, except that the bin is 150 litres and you will receive 50 mesh bags. Before setting up containers for change, please make sure you plan ahead and figure out how you are going to get your containers to the depot. Containers for Change offer a collection service where you can arrange a collection online and a service provider will come out to your school. This will usually incur a service fee, which can be up to 3 cents per container. If you don't have a lot of containers, you could set up a roster of interested parents and staff who could drop the containers off at a depot or get in touch with your local depot to arrange collections directly. Your school may also want to start collecting and recycling hard to recycle items such as oral care, e-waste and coffee pods. Like Containers for Change, please make sure you do your research and find out which service providers will accept the items after you collect them, how much it costs, and who will arrange transporting the items to the collection points. Some organisations take items for free and others charge. Examples of schools that have been successful in their applications to set up recycling hubs at their school are Marmion Primary School, North Beach Primary School, and more recently, Chrysalis Montessori School. The link on this slide will take you to the Recycle Right Find My Nearest website, where you can select the material you are collecting and your location, and it will tell you where your closest drop-off location is. Earth cycling is another great way to reduce waste going to landfill and creating a product such as compost or worm castings that can be used in your school gardens. There are a number of different types of compost systems that you can use in a school setting. We recommend compost cones if you are starting out, which Mary's Mount Primary School used successfully with their crunch and zip waste. Belia Primary School have sturdy compost tumblers. However, we find that it can be difficult for students to reach into and turn compost tumblers. Carey Baptist College in Forestdale received funding recently to build compost bays at their school. This method of composting takes a lot of time. However, their permaculture students use these compost bays, so they have incorporated it into their classroom time. Bokashi compost systems can be useful as they take all types of organic matter. However, they are quite small, so this type of composter might be useful in a staff room kitchen. Electric composters have also been applied for in the past, and they range in size and cost from small $500 units to very large $20,000 systems. John Curtin College of the Arts uses a very large electric composter to break down organic materials from a range of different areas of the school, including food waste from students, canteen and home economics, and other organic waste from the garden and science classes. This infrastructure cost is a lot more than the WasteSorted Schools funding could provide, but they were able to add to this funding from their school and other organisations. Smaller, cheaper versions exist, such as systems that Clifton Hills Primary School purchased, which breaks down classroom crunch and zip waste. When researching electric composters, it is important to consider how much energy they use, how much organic waste they can process each day, the durability of the product, and how often filters need to be changed. Because our funding is based on reducing waste to landfill, we would prefer to fund options that are more durable and won't produce additional waste items that will end up in landfill. Another way to process your crunch and zip waste is via worm farms. Similar to compost, there are different systems that can vary in cost and volume they can process. The best type of worm farms for a lot of fruit and vegetables are the fridge worm farms, which Ashdale Primary School and many other schools have built by repurposing an old fridge. We have a great fact sheet available at the link on this slide, which shows you how to repurpose a fridge to make a worm farm. The smaller black plastic worm farms take smaller amounts of organic matter, such as one classroom's crunch and zip waste. However, it can be a great learning tool. Mount Lawley Primary School received funding for this type of worm farm and included signage and metal collection buckets, which allow their students to break up the food easily with a small shovel. Mary's Mount Primary School and St Bernadette's Primary School have used worm tubes in their garden beds, where students can place their fruit and vegetable waste directly into the tube or buried wheelie bin for the worms to break down. Building a chicken coop and purchasing chickens may also be approved for funding if it is part of a whole system of earth cycling, and it clearly outlines how they will reduce waste going to landfill. On this slide, I have linked a Department of Education school animal ethics document, which outlines the requirements for housing and raising chickens. Belia Primary School and St Luke's Catholic Primary School both have chickens as part of their plan to reduce waste to landfill. We will only fund edible food garden infrastructure where the school can clearly demonstrate they are closing the loop on organic recycling. Items can include raised garden beds, bulk soil, fruit or vegetable seeds and seedlings, and tools such as spades, forks, wheelbarrows, and gloves. I chose these school examples specifically as they show part of the process of closing the loop on organic recycling. The first image shows Riverton Primary School students incorporating compost into their garden beds. Kalbarri District High School photo shows the edible plants being grown and eventually harvested, and then East Butler Primary School shows the harvested produce being used in cooking classes. The organic waste from the cooking classes can then be placed back into the compost system to break down and produce compost for their garden beds. Here is a simplified version of closing the loop on organic waste, and it is important to be really specific about how your school is carrying out each step. If you want more information about closing the loop, please feel free to contact us. We also fund up to $275 for reticulation items to help water your edible food gardens. Edgewater Primary School and Northampton Primary School have irrigation incorporated into their edible food gardens and use either small sprinklers or drippers. Educational signage is funded if it is specifically linked to the waste infrastructure at your school and explicitly teaches correct use. All signage must be approved by the WasteSorted Schools team before you purchase it. These 4 examples all use images that are available on our website and describe which bin to use for different items. Kingston Primary School and Mount Lawley Primary School purchased metal signage that is attached to the wall above their waste stations, which will last a long time and is very durable. Kalbarri District High School have been creative and made up nicknames for each of their bins, such as Freddie Food Scraps and Laura Landfill. And Bassendean Primary School have UV protected stickers that won't fade and break down over time. The Monster and Thumbs Up signage files are available free of charge on the WasteSorted Schools website under Resources. The link on this slide takes you directly to the bin signage website. We also have a new set of signage files for containers for change bins too. Our composting and worms posters can also be printed out to put up in your shed or above your worm and compost systems to remind everyone about what to put in and what to leave out. And our special collection signs can also be downloaded from the same site to put up at your recycling hub. Other items that can be funded are student incursions that teach students how to use waste infrastructure at their school. A maximum of 2 classes will be funded, and an example of this is Helena River Steiner School, who applied for funding for an incursion when they were setting up their fridge worm farm. Storage sheds will also be considered if they are used to store WasteSorted School funded project equipment. Tools and materials that enable the implementation of a project can also be included for your application. For example, Corrine Senior High School applied for items to run their own waste audits. So they purchased gloves, a tarp, tongs and buckets. O'Connor Education Support Centre purchased a trolley and buckets that allow students to collect food scraps from around the school easily. Eastwick Park Primary School purchased gardening equipment such as rakes, spades and buckets, and Palmyra Primary School have purchased collection buckets for their composting collection. Some other items that may also be considered are items used as incentives for students to get involved, such as high-vis vests, lanyards and badges, paper shredders to recycle paper through compost systems may also be funded. And this one pictured can shred cardboard too. And Riverton Primary School uses a paper briquette maker to recycle paper to make bricks. So that is what you can apply for, and I'll just read out some of the projects and items that may not be approved. These are generally because they do not divert waste from landfill. So the first one is any project that isn't specifically reducing that waste going to landfill. Retrospective payments for items that have already been purchased, so please do not spend any money until you have approval from the WasteSorted Schools team. Projects that require ongoing funding such as memberships or subscriptions. Waste and recycling collection services, as these are ongoing costs and should be budgeted by the school or the Department of Education. Activities that aren't based in Western Australia. Projects that only address litter. However, if you do have a litter project and you'd like to talk to someone about that, you can contact the Keep Australia Beautiful Council for assistance with those. Other items, for example, payment of school staff wages won't be approved, travel to events, student excursions, gardening projects, except where the school can clearly show how the garden will close the loop on organic recycling, herbicides, pesticides or other products not adhering to the principles of organic gardening, water tanks, hand dryers, trees for beautification, and fish ponds and aquaponic systems, as they do not divert waste from landfill. So once you have a confirmed idea that you would like to apply for, you can start writing up a description for your project. Try to keep the description within about 250 words. In your description, include what waste streams you are targeting, why you are targeting that particular waste stream, and how the materials you are applying for will help your school divert waste from landfill. Then you can start researching the items you might need and collect quotes. If you have any individual items that cost more than $500, you must have evidence of the cost to be uploaded to Smarty Grants. We also recommend you saving any documents that you need to upload to Smarty Grants on a hard drive or desktop, as there has been issues in the past when uploading from a shared drive. When the WasteSorted Schools grant round opens on the 3rd of June, register with Smarty Grants and log in. The registered user will receive all correspondence, and we recommend you use your school admin address or your education email address. Please keep in mind that your principal will need to see the application and sign off on it too. This is what you'll see when you log into Smarty Grants. A useful tool is the preview form button, which is circled at the top, and this shows you all the questions asked throughout the application. Make sure that you are on the WasteSorted Schools grant application and not another divert grant round, and save your application every 20 minutes so nothing gets lost. Within the grant application form, you will be able to upload your quotes for items over $500, and you can save and preview your application before submitting it. As mentioned earlier, you will need to get your principal to view and sign off on it. Once you have submitted it, you can't change it. However, if you need to have it reopened, please contact the WasteSorted Schools team and we can do it from the back end. The next grant round closes at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, the 6th of August. We will not accept any late submissions, so please don't get caught out. It is a good idea to double check that your school is accredited for 2024, which you can do by logging into the WasteSorted Schools online portal, or please feel free to email us to check. Please also check in with us if you think your school might have an outstanding grant that has not been acquitted. And once you have submitted your application, please check that you receive the submission confirmation email. It might end up in your junk mailbox, so please check there and email us if you do not receive it. So what happens after you submitted? Well, please allow up to 12 weeks after the grant round has closed to receive any notification if you are successful or not. Our team will check that your school and the application is eligible. And if it is, then it will proceed to the assessment stage, where a grant panel will read through and assess each submission against 3 criteria. The first one is the project benefits, so clearly stating that it is diverting waste from landfill. The capacity of the application to deliver the project, so making sure you're not biting off too much in one funding project, keeping it simple and doable. And then the last one is value for money, but we like to think about it as responsible purchasing. We want to see that you have researched and selected products that are good quality and will last a long time, rather than buying cheaper products that may end up in landfill. The grant panel will then send through their recommendations to the Waste Authority, and if accepted, then the Minister for Environment approves them and a grant funding agreement letter is sent to the school to be signed by the project contact and principal. Your school will then send an invoice to DWER and you will receive the funds. It is very important that you do not spend any money on the project until you have received the funds from DWER. So 3 important points about spending the funds. So please remember to keep electronic copies of all fully paid receipts. This can be a photo or scanned copy of hard copy receipts. If your school does not spend all the funds received, the remaining funds must be returned to the Waste and Resource Recovery account. As I mentioned earlier, it is essential that you do not start spending until you have received your approval letter and the funds are in your school's account. We understand that costs may change or it may take longer to complete the project than what was expected. So if you do find yourself in this situation, you can request a grant budget variation or extension form through Smarty Grants. If your primary project contact changes, you can also email the WasteSorted Schools team to change it in the Smarty Grants portal. After purchasing all the items, you can then acquit your grant using the acquittal form that is linked to your Smarty Grants application. Your grant must be acquitted within 9 months of receiving the funds. However, please note that we do not count the summer holiday break in this 9 months. You will then need to upload electronic copies of all the receipts, and they must be fully paid invoices rather than quotes. We have a number of tools that are downloadable from our website. The WasteSorted Schools checklist is a great document to use when you are trying to decide on a project. The WasteSorted Schools grant guidelines are a good reference for you to use to make sure your project fits within the criteria. We have frequently asked questions page you can read through, and some budgeting examples of hypothetical projects schools might apply for. The link on this slide will take you to those tools. So some key takeaways from this presentation are: check your school and project are eligible. So is your school accredited in the current calendar year? And does your school have any outstanding WasteSorted Schools or WasteWise Schools grants? Register and log into Smarty Grants and preview the application form, which opens on the 3rd of June. Draft your project title and description in Word first to allow you to check for your word limit. Make sure your principal is on board and will sign off on the submission. Research and collect costs. Make sure you save them as electronic copies. And most importantly, talk to the WasteSorted Schools team if you have any questions or get stuck. So if you have any questions, please make sure you enter them in the Q&A tab. I will answer them once I have answered some of the questions that came through from our registration page. So the questions that I already have, the first one was how much funding is available? So each school can apply up to $5,500, which includes GST. The pool that is available depends on the budget allocated for that year and how much has been provided to schools in other grant rounds that year. The second question was, what can the grant money be used for? And I hope I've been clear and answered this during the presentation, but I will say it again. The projects that will be approved are ones that will divert waste from landfill. So this can be through avoidance of creating waste or material recovery. However, if it's not clear in your application that it is reducing waste going to landfill, it won't be accepted. Does there need to be any funding from other sources for projects? For example, P&F or CLUS budgets? This is a great question, and I don't think I've covered it yet. So if your project does not go over $5,500, then you do not have to have funding from other sources. If your project exceeds $5,500, it is important to provide clear evidence of where the additional funding is coming from. For example, if the school is providing this funding, a letter from the principal explaining this would allow us or the grant panel clear evidence that the project will be able to be funded in full and go ahead. Can we apply for a grant if we have been accepted last year? So another great question. You can apply for any grant round as long as all your prior grants have been acquitted. We have had a school in the past be so organised that they have been able to receive the funding from one grant round, purchase the items and acquitted before the next grant round opened. They were then able to apply for the second grant round in that year. Number 5 was what are the timeframes for applying for grants? So the next round is open for 9 weeks. They are opening on the 3rd of June and they close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of August. And we do not take any late submissions. So please use those 9 weeks to be organised and get it in early. The next one, if we are unsuccessful, when can we reapply? If you are unsuccessful, you will receive feedback as to why you were unsuccessful. So you can use that feedback and apply again for the next grant round and change it however you need to make it more successful. When will applicants from the first 2024 grant round be notified if they were successful or not? So the applications are still going through the approvals process. However, we anticipate that schools will be advised of the outcome of their application before the next grant round opens. The next one is, what type of language should we use when, oh, sorry, I missed one. Can we use the funding to build a chicken pen to help us recycle our food scraps and garden waste? Yes, you can apply for that type of project as long as you clearly state how it is diverting waste from landfill. Go back to that slide, click on the link, and it will also take you to the animal ethics document that I've linked on that page. And the last question is, what type of language should I use when applying? The most important thing is that you are including information about how the project will reduce waste to landfill. You don't have to use any formal or scientific language. Keep it simple, clear and concise, and we will work with that. So they were all the questions from the registration. I'll just check in with Kate to see if we have any questions come through.
So we had
online.
one question, Hannah, about can we preview the application form before the 3rd of June?
No, you can't preview it until the application, until the grant round opens.
But we could email them the questions that are like.
Okay, yeah. So if you would like to see some of the questions that will be asked, please get in touch with us, and we'll send you through some of those questions.
Another question was about the education type of application. Does this include teaching students skills that will help them to minimise waste in the future? For example, teach them to make their own cleaning products or body products.
I might ask Kate to answer this one.
My thought on that one is we don't fund consumables. However, if you were going to do a project along the same lines as creating beeswax wraps, so that it was something that they could continue to reuse and prevent them from using waste in the future, then that would be something that would be considered. Yeah, so if you wanted to discuss that one further, then I would suggest giving us a call or email and we can chat through a bit more what you had in mind.
Thank you. Any other questions come through?
There might be one more. No, I think that's it for the moment.
Okay. So we will wrap up this session with a final reminder to contact us. Please make sure you reach out if you have any questions or get stuck along the way. If you're unsure about your accreditation status or past grants, we are more than happy to check them for you. Or if you'd like to just discuss your project idea and see if it's something that would fit in the guidelines, please get in touch with us, and our email address and phone number is there on the screen. Like I said earlier, I will send through a link to the recording and a PDF version of the slides so you can access all of those links. So good luck and thank you for joining us for this webinar. See you later.